Today you're going to hear my conversation with Ryan James, who has been my personal guide into the world of regenerative work. In particular, Ryan has opened the door for me into an indigenous worldview that I believe sits at the heart of all truly regenerative work. If the concepts that Ryan shares here really resonate with you, if you want to immerse yourself in them and go deeper, I cannot recommend highly enough the 4-week learning experience that Ryan offers. I did it myself last year. It's absolutely transformational. You can find more information at rebiz.io.
Welcome to the Regenerative Worklife podcast. If you are ready to make the leap out of your corporate job and into purposeful regenerative work, this is the show for you. As you've probably discovered, transitioning into regenerative work is a lot more complicated than going on a job board and sending off your CV. This journey you are embarking on means taking risks, going against the grain, overcoming challenges, and writing your own script. It takes entrepreneurial muscle, powerful vision, and a willingness to change. Having a mentor by your side makes all the difference. I am your host, Alyssa Murphy. I have worked with hundreds of impact-focused businesses and individuals, and I am here to help you. Let's take things one step at a time as I show you how to quit corporate, find your vision, and successfully transition into regenerative work. Here we go. So hi Ryan, how are you?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good day. I'm doing well. Good to see you again. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good too, thanks. I'd love to start by asking about the land where you are right now.
Yeah, I'm in what is currently called Oxford, Maine. The day I arrived was the biggest snowstorm of the year. So there's about 2 feet of snow on the ground, which is solidified with freezing rain into icy, crunchy places for our steps. And this is the occupied land of the Abenaki, which are the people of the dawn land or the new light. Because when the sun rises in the east, it's one of the first places that they're able to view the sun. So the Abenaki is more of like a larger meta group of the people. There's specific other people who have been here. But this area generally is the Abenaki.
Thank you. And yeah, thank you also for that prompt because I start all my interviews with this question, and actually I had that idea from one of the first chapters within Rebiz, which is a course that Ryan co-hosts that I did last year that I found really transformative. And one of the first kind of prompts in there was to think about the land where you live and, you know, who it belongs to, its history, which way you're facing when you're in your house, you know, what your relationship is to that land. And I think that's a really beautiful question. And I remember just how much I enjoyed thinking about that and researching it and really establishing that connection with where I live.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be awake to climate change and ecocide and want to save children in Cambodia and do all of these really noble things, but what does it mean to wake up to the animacy of life right outside of our front door and understand where we are? Because that's a reassociative process, as opposed to having this thing that shoots out into the grandeur and scale of the world without forming a relationship with the tree in our backyard and remembering what seasons the birds are coming or whose land we're on. It's this weird dissonant process, right? So it's really important to reassociate the place where we are as a first step. And that includes the names, the proper names of the place, the proper names of the beings, the trees. I mean, and when I say proper, I don't mean Latin. So it's a good process.
Yeah. And just how far that goes back as well. You know, in my case, that went right back to Celtic tribes, which actually you still see in the names of places around here. But it was a really powerful exercise to trace that kind of all the way back to like the earliest history that we have record of. Yeah. And I think to your point that often our aspirations around purpose or impact or making change are focused on something out there. There's a sense that it's somehow at a distance from us. It's something we have to move towards and go out and find. And I think what I'm hearing from what you said is that really our first step can be to become aware of what's right on our doorstep, what's under our feet, what we're looking at in front of us.
Yeah, or what's inside of our chest, even to bring it even more internal. You know, what they've told me is that it's really important to know who you are and where you are. You know, most people don't really even know who they are nor where they are. So to start that process of those two seemingly simple things is the process of shifting the sentiments that inform our approaches. Because if we're disassociated from who we are and where we are, every single approach is going to be informed by that sentiment of disassociation and disconnection. So to shift that is what this process is about. And yeah, it starts internally. There's no way to get around it. I mean, people oftentimes want to say, yeah, but you know, that stuff can wait, or that stuff's woo-woo, you know? It's like, what do you mean? You have a heart, right? You breathe. Something's looking out of your eyes. Whether or not you believe it, whether or not you think it's you or not, any of these other things is beyond the point. Like, you are witnessing the world. And truth is not a singular noun. It's a moving, living thing, just like life is, even though English makes life a noun. So to start with that place of who we are and where we are is really, really important to inform how we move in the world.
And that's a very different way of thinking, I think, for most of us. You know, I think for most of us, when we want to make changes in our lives, our immediate response is to try to move to action, you know, to make a plan, to think of sort of what we're going to do, how we're going to make it happen. And I think it's, in terms of sort of modern Western psychology, it's quite kind of counterintuitive to think of going inside and starting with yourself. I wonder if you could put that kind of into context for us. So to try to help make that feel really specific. So in the case of my audience and people who I'm working with who are working in a corporate environment where they feel very disconnected from the purpose of the organization, they're looking for work that reconnects them with nature, where they feel that they really have a positive impact. I think many of those people will, you know, their first thoughts will be, right, I need to start looking for new jobs, you know, I need to reskill, I need to do training or education, whatever it might be. Could you speak to what that internal journey might look like for someone in that situation?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so there's no way to disconnect the internal and the external. Those are just words that we use to help us attempt to navigate the world in dualistic form while it's actually a unified field. So, like, who's looking for the new job, right? That's the internal world. So obviously there's some sort of internal thing happening here. The external world didn't tell you to look for a new job, you know? So something is propelling you to shift your external reality, right? So there's a lot of different things that can create that. Earth is creating most of this for us. Part of the understanding is to understand she is a being. She's not a resource. She's not a dead backdrop upon which the human drama plays out. She is a being who also is evolving in consciousness. So as she evolves in consciousness, those of us who are sensitive enough and listening can also evolve in consciousness. Now, the word crisis, etymologically in Greek, comes from the word choice. Just like the word emergency means to bring to the light. So in times of crisis and in times of emergency, there's often more ability for people to recognize that something externally is making them feel a certain way, would be the first way that they would approach that. Look, the world is, something's happening in the world. I need to shift how I position myself in that world. We can call that alignment. So a lot of people who are looking for new jobs, which would be the immediate reaction to feeling uncomfortable in a situation, are going to be searching for some sort of internal and external alignment, where what is speaking, most likely not within their mind, although they might think it's in their mind, probably coming from their heart. Whatever's emanating from their heart is attempting to get them into deeper relationship with a inner song that lives within them, where their gifts and unique skill set can be utilized to assist life. Maslow has this interesting thing, like a lot of people have heard of it, called the pyramid of hierarchy. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of people don't know is that Maslow took that pyramid of hierarchy from the Siksika people, the Blackfoot people. And at the top of the pyramid of Maslow is self-actualization. He later refined it and said self-transcendence, but that was like 10 or 15 years later. But the Siksika people, it was a teepee. It wasn't a pyramid. And they had self-actualization at the bottom. So at the base of the teepee, you have to be self-actualized. You have to know your song. You have to know your skills and your gifts to then be useful in the community. So we've been flipping this upside down, right? We try to individualize and find safety, and then we navigate whatever we're doing, right? But like the I is centered in all of our actions. So at the peak of our career, we're like, oh, finally, maybe I can do something that fits my purpose. When that was the base level of the actual pyramid of hierarchy, which was a teepee from the indigenous people of the Siksika, right? So the way that we've been looking at purpose already is strange, because purpose also means the proper function for which something exists. And I can guarantee you that accounting is not the reason why somebody exists, for example. So what that inner calling is beckoning us to do is to listen close to voices that don't speak verbally within us, to bring us into why we're actually here, which is going to be the enablement of the continuation of life, utilizing our skill set that also lights us up and gives us energy. And within that is how we can at least approach one dimension of regeneration. Because if we're burning ourselves out rather than burning ourselves in, we're going to be in an interesting place.
I really appreciate in that this sense of, as you talked about, people often reach this kind of peak in their career. This is what I often see in terms of the people who work with me, that they've reached a certain point of success. And they reach that point, and then finally it's like everything is in place, financially, security, skill-wise, that they think, now I can start looking for that purpose. Now I can start looking for that, whatever that role or that starting that business, whatever it is that's going to bring me back into that connection with life. And I love how you kind of explained that really this is the foundation. The purpose is the foundation on what we're building, not the end point that we get to. Because I think a lot of the times those people feel like they're starting again. That's something I often hear, is it feels like, I worked my way all the way up and now I'm starting again. But let's reframe that. Like, maybe that's exactly what you should be doing. Maybe it should feel like a completely new start, because actually what you're doing is, you're now building with the correct foundation in place, with purpose as your foundation.
Yeah, exactly. And tests don't measure a child. Tests measure the structure of the system that relies on the test. So like whatever success has been deemed, that's not about what success truly means for the person. That's what the system relies upon for its own success. So like that state that everyone's reaching for, it's not about them. It's about the system's term that has been deemed success. And this is part of the whole issue, is like when people are waking up, they're like, well, actually, wow, I've obtained whatever I have been conditioned to believe was success, but I don't feel good, And it's because that's not their definition of success. It's never been a definition of success. It's only been a definition of the forward momentum of a linear progress machine that is shifting the word progress into meaning something that it can utilize for infinite growth. So, yeah, I mean, redefining these terms for ourselves are really, really important too, And there's nothing wrong with starting fresh. The sun starts fresh every day. There's something really beautiful with an innocence, or a beginner's mind, as they say in Buddhism. That's the state of true learning. So it's kind of funny that these are called midlife crises, especially when I share that crisis just means choice. So you're just having another chance to make a different choice, And you get to choose, because at the end of the day, you're going to be on your deathbed and you're going to pass through that transition alone, although people might be surrounding you. And you're going to have the chance to look at the choices that you've made in your life. And if you knew something and didn't act upon what you knew, no one else is going to have to deal with that other than you, in that moment, at least. The interesting thing that I've been learning is that karma is also not individual, though. So if you're making choices, let's say your midlife choice comes about and you decide to ignore what you know and that inner calling that comes within you, and you decide to continue on the same path or even double down on the metrics of success that the system have given you, that karma can actually implicate future generations. Because if you're working within that state that's creating harm in the aim of success, and as Vandana Shiva says, an investment is not something that kills the planet. But if you're moving in that direction, that karma is not only yours anymore. Karma in yoga means action. So our choices inform that karma. And since we're in an entangled, interconnected relational universe, of course our karma can't be contained within ourselves, So I think it's important to look at these choices in that entangled manner. And the question, what did you do once you knew, is really powerful, because you know that you know, even if you deny to yourself that you know.
I hope you've enjoyed this conversation so far. I love that description that Ryan shared of pursuing a regenerative career as heeding that inner song that lives within each of us, and where our gifts and unique skill set can be used to assist life. It is such a beautiful definition of what it means to have a regenerative work life, to use our unique gifts and skill set to assist life. I will leave you on that note for this week, but tune back in next week when I'll bring you the second part of my conversation with Ryan.
Thank you for listening to the Regenerative Work-Life podcast. It's time to put what you learnt today into practice. Remember, you were called to this work for good reason. Nature needs each and every one of us, and you can do this. If today's episode has been helpful, please take the time to share it with someone who needs a little guidance in stepping out of corporate and into regenerative. Learn more about how I can help you find your vision for a work life filled with purpose, impact, and joy at regenerativeworklife.com and connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Alyssa Murphy. I'll see you back here soon for the next episode.